The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
Welcome to Let Yourself Bloom, the podcast where motherhood and ambition coexist beautifully. I'm your host, Jen Banks, and in each episode, we'll dive deep into the journey of being more than a mom. Here, we believe that you can love your children deeply and still have room to nurture your own dreams. Picture this, a life where you don't have to choose between career and family, where you can be inspired by stories of women who have boldly stepped into their dual roles. Together, we'll explore how to balance, grow, and thrive in every season of life. Our guests will share their personal stories of finding identity beyond motherhood, proving that you can hold both your family and your ambitions in your heart. We'll talk about the seasons of life, embracing our unique paths, and giving ourselves permission to bloom whenever we're ready. Whether you're a working mom of two or dreaming of a bigger family, whether you're a stay-at-home mom seeking more or a career-driven woman balancing the chaos, this podcast is for you. Listen in and let the stories, advice, and community support you in becoming the fullest version of yourself. Tune in, be inspired, and remember, you are worthy of the same love and care you give to others. Welcome to Let Yourself Bloom. Let's grow together. Welcome to the Let Yourself Bloom podcast. I am here today with Jeana Nunez, and she's going to share her story of being a mom and. Welcome, Jeana.
Hi, how are you?
Doing so great. I am so thrilled that you're here, and every time I find someone that is willing to do the story segment, I am so excited because I love hearing stories. We're wired for stories, and there are so many takeaways we can glean, so I'm excited. We'll just have you jump into your story.
Yeah, so my name is Jeana Nunez. I have been married to my husband for 20 years, and I am a mom of four, basically in the teen world right now. My kids are 19, 17, 14, and 12. So full-blown teen stages, which is a little crazy. And on top of that, I have three boys that deal with mental health stuff. And so that has definitely been a journey. I have a disease called hypokalemic periodic paralysis. And for a really long time, nobody really knew about it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't say anything. But I've dealt with this disease like as long as I've had kids. And it's not going away. And we had many hospital visits and ER stays and misdiagnoses, and I mean it's been a long journey. And as a mom, dealing with a chronic disease like that, when sometimes you can't get out of bed, you kind of feel less than as a mom. And I had to learn to overcome that piece of me. I had to learn that I am the best mom that I can be despite everything going on, right? I had this tipping point where with perimenopause, I didn't even know that existed. Nobody told me I knew menopause existed. But when all these symptoms started happening and my body started just freaking out, with my disease, everything has to be on, like, it's kind of like I'm walking on a tightrope. And if anything is off, then all hell breaks loose, basically. It's just crazy. And I take a ridiculous amount of potassium to kind of keep everything in balance. However, I had went a month and a half of not being able to walk. For an entire day, I could not walk. I would wake up not walking. Some days I would wake up not, like paralyzed from the waist down. And other days I would wake up okay, but then by the middle of the day, I was like wobbly. And so I couldn't get in the car and drive. I couldn't be who I wanted to be because I'm just a woman that loves to empower other women. I'm a big cheerleader for other women. And I was just really feeling kind of down. And was like, okay, is this going to be my life now? Like, I finally had gotten back to the point where I was working out 6 days a week, and life was pretty normal. And then all of a sudden, this just came out of, like, it just came crashing down. So with all this going on, I had a day that I was just like, okay, I've got this big event coming up. I've got to get there. So I just was like, okay, Heavenly Father, I need to get to this event. I know I'm supposed to be there. And I went to this event. It was called Ignition Point Live. If you don't know Ignition Point, their podcast is incredible. It's like a 15-minute podcast. But I went there and I sat in the front row seat, and nobody knew anything about my story, really. I'm like this vibrant person of just full of energy that just like is kind of charismatic and just can bring people to me. And so I'm sitting there in the front and nobody knew my story, but I'm listening to this guy, Jeff Griffin, And he was sharing his story about how he became paralyzed. And he was an amazing motivational speaker. He was talking on creating habits, and he was talking on belief. And he shared a story about how he wanted to be able to walk again. And he went to 16 different doctors trying to figure out a way to be able to walk, right? And he's like, why did I go to 16? Because it was finally that last one that gave me hope. And he's, I'm going to walk my daughter down the aisle. I'm going to walk, hand in hand with my wife. And it was like the most monumental moment when I watched this man stand up and walk across the stage, because I knew what it felt like. I knew what it felt like to be confined to that wheelchair. And yes, I had days when I could walk a little bit and other days when I couldn't. But I at that moment, God said to me, Jeana, you're meant for greater. You are playing small and you're meant for greater. And I'd always had a business. I'd always done things on the side. And I always knew that God wanted me up on a stage sharing my story and empowering others. But it was that moment that that ignition point, that I just was like, okay, I've been playing small. If you want me to go bigger, I'll do what you want me to do. And yeah, it took a little bit, because when you have kids with mental health, I had been building a business like previously, and we had a suicide attempt just out of the blue with my 6th grader, and it threw my entire world upside down. And I completely threw my life into my kids, put my business to the side, and just was in survival mode. And I know as moms, we get in survival mode a lot. We do. We forget to put ourselves first. We forget to realize that we are people too. And we lose our identity a little bit. And that's kind of what happened with me. My identity was just trying to keep my kids safe. And I got to the point where he was doing much better. I was starting to build my business again. I started to rebuild my business again. And I was still kind of playing small. And then all that health stuff started coming back again. And that's when I was just like, okay, enough is enough. So now I'm on a whole different journey, and I just signed up to Elevated Coaching Academy to be a high performance life coach and empower women. And I am so excited to be able to empower moms and women to be able to find their worth and become the queens that they're meant to be. So that's kind of where my journey is now. My disease hasn't went away. There are still days I wake up not walking. My kids still deal with depression and anxiety, and it's not going away. We maintain it. We work on it. But I realize that you have a choice every single day. Every single day, you can choose how you wake up. You can choose if you're going to wake up and let the day defeat you, or you can choose up and be grateful. Like I just choose to wake up and choose to look for gratitude. And some days I'm not walking, and some days I'm stuck in my bed for a while, but I can still look out my window, and we live on the lake, so I get to look at the beautiful views that God gave me and say, you know what? I'm just grateful for the days when my legs work. I'm just grateful that I have 4 beautiful, amazing kids, and I'm just grateful for a husband that thinks I'm the world. And so that's kind of where I had to go through a self-discovery myself, though. I hired a, like a business coach. I went and started on focusing on all of my personal care. And personal care is a priority to me now. Let's see, what are some of the other things that a relationship coach. And I really invested in myself in finding me so I could be the best mom and version of myself and best wife. And be able to empower other women. So that's kind of been my journey, and it's still going. It's just beginning. Like my business Pure Aspirations was from, I built the brand knowing that I wanted to expand on it because I was in the health and wellness world, and I'm all about, empowering yourself and getting the toxins out of your home. But, purifying and empowering, that's kind of been like who I've been at the core. And now I get to add that coaching aspect into it as you aspire to what you want to become with pure intent. So that's kind of where I'm at right now in my life.
That is such a good story, and there's so many things to unpack there. So I'm so grateful that you shared it and that you were willing to be vulnerable in certain parts and throughout the whole story. So thank you. first of all, with your chronic illness, did that become part of your life because of kids, or was that something that was just kind
No,
of triggered by having kids?
we do not know where it came from. I served a mission in Paraguay, and it could have come from there, but we really don't know. Like, there's so many anomalies to it. A lot of times, it's a genetic disease that like the onset is in the teen years. However, that wasn't my case. But I've been diagnosed with it, and the amount of potassium I take would kill a person in a day. So we know I have the disease. But it wasn't until right after I got married, pretty soon after I got home from my mission at 24. And it was just right after I first got married that everything started happening. And we didn't know. Like I said, we went through misdiagnosis after misdiagnosis. I was put on seizure meds, had my license taken away. There was a lot of divine intervention in between where God kind of stepped in and helped guide and lead. And it was about 7 years ago that through divine intervention, I was able to be led to someone that has my disease, that led me to my doctor, that got me on a path so that it's manageable. And, but yeah, we really don't. It's kind of one of those mysteries. It's just there and it's not going away, and that's okay. We've learned how to work with it. And my kids joke because since I learned Spanish, like with this disease, when you don't have potassium in your body runs off of potassium. So your muscles don't work, your brain, all these things. And I notice now with my brain, like I'll be like, I can't remember somebody's name or like something that I know. And I'm like, oh, my potassium's low. Or I'll get to where I go into Spanish mode. And my kids are like, oh no, mom's in Spanish mode again. Because I literally I can't get the words out in English the way I need to, but I can fluently speak them in Spanish. But my kids don't speak Spanish. And so they kind of joke. It's kind of like that Buzz Lightyear moment where it's like, oh no, turn up for Spanish mode, Dad. Right? Because my husband's Latin. But anyway, so no, I have no idea. It's just one of those things.
Yes. And wow, just taking a moment to appreciate that you're experiencing that within motherhood, because there are chronic illnesses, but then to compound that with motherhood and all the new challenges and ways to figure out and adapt and be a mom and go through with that is no easy feat, I am sure. And then to be a mom of teens at this time, do you have any Mom Squad secrets for your time of raising teens, or any other secrets that are within your motherhood?
So I feel that you have to let them find themselves. And that's been really hard. I used to have control, like probably because I had so many things out of my control with my health and things. I had this control that I wanted to be able to have everything in order and control things. Like when I was like every one of my pregnancies, I was like walking on my knees more than I was, like half as much as I was walking, right? And every one that I'm in the hospital. So these kids were so special to me to be able to have, and I'm like, I just want to like help hone them into what they can become, because I see their great potential. All of my kids are very, very headstrong and very opinionated. And two of my boys have ADHD and ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder. I think two even are like high functioning autistic, but we're in the process of figuring that out. And so with that, you have to learn to give them their voice. You have to listen to understand. And what I found the most is kids like to talk, especially teens, at night. You have to take those moments when they come to just listen and take time to do what they love, even if you don't love it. What I've really done and tried to do is just have one-on-one time with my kids. I had a life and business coach that we were going through different aspects of like accountability, and I was like, okay, well, I'm trying to build my business, but then I feel like I'm trying to build, help with my kids, my family, and she's like, okay, what's something you can do so that they know they're important? And we just took okay, this is something I can do with this kid every single day. This is something I can do with this kid every single day. And I took 10 minutes every single day and gave them my undivided attention. And that 10 minutes was better than any hours I could spend on them, like mostly there, but not all the way there, because I was doing what they wanted, what they needed, and like one of them, we have an air hockey table, and I would go and play air hockey with him. And I found that there was some nights I forgot, and he would come and get me at 11 o'clock at night. Mom, we've got to go play air hockey. We haven't had our air hockey game. And I didn't realize what a difference it was making, but it does. You just have to let them find themselves. And as moms, as soon as they're born, we have their whole life planned out for them. But that's not how it works. And especially with mental health robs a lot of their life. And you have to just help them realize their worth and help them find themselves.
I love that so much. Thank you for giving that piece of advice. Allow them to be themselves and then spend that one-on-one time with them to showcase their unique self. That is wonderful. Yeah. Then let's talk about your realization where you heard that you were meant for greater. I just love those words. It gives me chills even to hear it secondhand. Walk us through what it was like to feel that and kind of how you saw all these obstacles. Were they just all of a sudden gone, or did you feel empowered to overcome them? Or how did that feel when you were hearing those words?
So, like I said, I have always been an optimist. My husband jokes that I'm like this eternal optimist, and my kids do too. They're like, Mom, how can you be so happy? How can you always see things from the positive? I'm like, because it's a choice. Right? And so my kids have seen me this way. They've seen me overcome my whole life. And like I said, the obstacles didn't go away. In fact, I've now got my 12-year-old, like we're in that stage again. And it's just like, I don't know what it is about 12, but now he's dealing with major depression and anxiety. I actually had to pull him from school. God basically said, you need to pull him and you need to homeschool. And I was like, are you kidding me? This was during when I wasn't being able to walk on top of it all. And my husband was not on board, but I was like, okay, God, if that's the case, then this is what I need from you. I need a private dyslexia tutor. I need him to have a private dyslexia tutor, and I need to find something that's going to work as far as school, because I can't be the only one teaching him. And I, the very next day, found a private dyslexia tutor 10 minutes from my house that had an opening, which, again, total divine intervention. And that's what I found is I don't have to do it. It's not me. I just have to let God lead and let go. And that's how I've lived my life. And that's kind of what I want to help moms understand. If you just let go and let God, and he knows the bigger picture, and you don't have to figure out the how. He's going to figure out the how. And that's kind of what I realized is like, I don't know the how. I don't know how it's all going to work out. But I know that if he's calling me to it, and if he gives you a dream, or he puts it in your head, he's going to create a path. And so I just walk in faith. That's kind of how I'm doing it. Like I said, it hasn't went away, and it's not going away. And there's still obstacles, and there's obstacles every single day. You just have to decide what you're going to do with those obstacles. If you're going to let them define you, or if you're going to let them become a stepping stone.
I love that. Well, you have shared so many nuggets with us about optimism and gratitude and choice and walking by faith. So that is incredible. And you have such a great example and energy about you that is contagious. So I love that you're empowering women and sharing that. A lot of times I wish I could bottle up motivation or enthusiasm or empowerment, because we do need it all the time. And so it's great to be reminded of these things. Let's talk for a minute about being both. So you said there was a time when you were in survival mode and your identity was on the back burner, and then other times where your identity was at the forefront. How do we know when it's time to break past survival mode, or when we're at that capability? Do you have anything to speak to for that?
That's a hard one, because at that time, my whole world needed to be focused on that. But at the same time, if I was continuing to do that, you can't pour from an empty cup. I think that's the biggest thing. And we think we can. As moms, we think we're invincible and that we can pour from an empty cup, but we can't. And it was that realization that I couldn't pour from an empty cup, and then I needed to invest in me and find me again. And I believe that God's going to nudge you and help you, and you just kind of have to listen and follow. I'm just really close in that way that I just, like I said, God basically just said, it's time. And there's been several times in my life, like one of those times when I came back to that business after I walked away, that son that we'd had, like the mental health stuff with, he was in an eating disorder clinic, a really intensive eating disorder clinic in Portland, and we just sold our home and moved to Utah, but I was still stuck in Oregon because he was still in this eating disorder clinic and he couldn't be released. They were trying to get him to 100 pounds. And so I had my 2 teens with me, living in the Ronald McDonald house for a month and a half. And my husband had moved to Utah to be able to get the kid, start his job and help the 2 younger ones get started for school. And our CEO was talking about how the world needs what we have to offer. And, so many people were hurting and we had a solution. And God was like, it's time. And I was like now? I don't even have anything. I don't have a computer. And I bought an iPad and got to work. And that's kind of how I reignited my business. It was not the most convenient time, and sometimes it's not going to be, but I truly believe that. Sorry about my dog. I truly believe that as you are in tune and you connect with God, that He's going to help you through those different pieces and know the right timing. But there's little things you can do every single day, even if you can't focus 100% on you. You can still choose to wake up in gratitude. You can still choose to take those moments and have a little bit of self-care, even if it's just 10 minutes to yourself. And so there's little things you can do every single day to still be able to fill your own cup. And that's what I suggest. And I mean, I think we're all meant for greatness. And I know we are all meant to be these queens that God has created. And so it's just a matter of just letting Him lead and taking care of ourselves and realizing our worth.
I love that. What a great reminder to listen to God and to pay attention to those nudges when they come, because we will be guided. And I've often forget that is that we're not here alone. We have all of those reminders and that spiritual connection that we can be guided and pushed on our way. I also feel like self-compassion is great to bring up, because that's something I've been working on is, recognizing it's okay if I'm in survival mode or if I'm at this phase in my life. I can give myself grace and recognize that the time will be shown, or I will have different seasons. My kids are young, and I have been doing a lot. I have a book coming out in just a couple of weeks, but also just the compassion to you're doing enough and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as long as you're listening or as long as you're trying or being open to the possibility.
Definitely. Yeah, and we have to remember we are enough. And it doesn't matter how our kids turn out. It doesn't matter what our kids do. That doesn't define our worth. We are worthy just being. And I think sometimes we attach it to riches or to success or to the way we look or, all those things. And we are of worth just because we're daughters of God. And if we can just remember that, then the rest kind of follows.
So true. I write in my book that I used to base my worth on accomplishments or action. And so anytime I was in action or not successful, then I felt that ping that I wasn't worthy. But it's so true. We are worthy just as we are. If we got up and did nothing all day, we would just be the same worth.
Yes.
So
but as high achieving women, we have to remind ourselves of that, right?
Yes, you can do all the things, but you can also rest. And yes, start with a full cup and then go from there.
And what I found also is that with my teens get to see me fail, and they get to see what I do with failure. They get to watch me rise. And that's the best gift I can give them is taking time to find me and follow my passions. They get to see that ignition in me. They get to see that fire. And they also get to see the failure. They have to learn and watch how you fell, because failure is part of life. And I think it's really important to let teens fail and learn how to pick themselves back up.
So true. I just want to reemphasize what you just said there. They get to watch me rise. Oh, that is huge. So true. We are an example with our successes and our failures. I love that. Is there anything else you want to share today or say before we close?
You're enough. I think we need to hear that more and more and more. And I don't think that mental health gets talked about enough. And if you're a mom that struggles with mental health or struggles with chronic illness, or, like other diseases that are invisible to the normal person, that you are enough. And don't let your obstacles define you. Let them refine you. Let them be that light and that stepping stone to your greatness, because you have a story to share, and that's part of your story.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you for your time today, Jeana. How can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
So I am getting ready to launch a group coaching, and we're in the process of doing that, and just on helping moms really become empowered and women be able to become the queens that they're meant to be, and giving some of those steps that I had to take to get back to finding myself, about self-care, about mindset, about connecting with God, those kind of things. So I'm in the process of putting that together. But I'm on Instagram at pure_aspirations. And I think that's where my website would be too, is mypureaspirations.com. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. Like I said, I'm evolving and going bigger, and I'm preparing to be able to speak on stage soon and do some different fun things there. So yeah, just stay tuned.
So great. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Let Yourself Bloom, where we embrace the beauty of balancing motherhood and ambition. I hope today's episode has inspired you to nurture your dreams while being the incredible mom that you are. Remember, it's not just about finding balance, it's about thriving in all aspects of your life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with other amazing women. And if you're the kind of person who loves to watch podcasts, you can find this podcast on my YouTube channel at LetYourselfBloom_ with Jen Banks, or on the Ride the Wave Media Podcast Network YouTube channel. Remember to stay connected with us on social media at LetYourselfBloom_ with Jen Banks, and join our community to keep blooming together. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep growing, and let yourself bloom.